this quick flip through of the Toziel Tarot has taken me more takes than I care to admit in order to properly put together, because every time I go through it, I find something else that I want to talk about and dig into. And I'm going to preface by saying three things. First, let's just get it out of the way. I hope it's Toziel. I'm not going to qualify it every time that I say, just for the sake of expediency. But if I'm wrong, and if someone knows how I should be saying that, please correct me in the comments. Also, I call it the Thoth Tarot. I know that some people prefer different pronunciations, and again, it's just less of a mouthful than saying the tarot created by Aleister Crowley and Lady Frida Harris every single time. I feel almost a little silly reviewing this because of how good it is and how thorough and well put together this deck is. It implies a level of knowledge and perception that I aspire to and don't presently possess. That said, I think that it deserves some hype insofar as my teeny tiny little channel can provide that. I want to make sure that the folks who deserve it get their flowers. So here we are. This is by the Toziel, a occultist, Thelemite, Gnostic, astrologer of 20 years. I'm just going to go through it because there are so many thoughts in my brain. The box is a tuck box, but for those of you who love clamshells, don't worry, because this deck deserves to be in a wood box or in a sleeve or in insert whatever, depending on the situation you're going to be reading it in anyway. So this helps to get it shipped to your door. This booklet is anything less than a novel would be inadequate to describe the depth of symbolism that's in here, but it does a great job of giving you an intuitive meaning. So even if this is your first deck, you could start reading quickly just by using the meanings in here and by practicing with it. I'm not going to spoil all of the cheeky surprises in here, but suffice it to say, it's like reading one of Lon Milo Duquette's books, where he's simultaneously somewhat self-effacing and realizes you're not to take yourself too seriously, while also it can be capricious without being stupid, I guess is a good way to put it. I especially appreciated the allusion to Rider-Waite-Smith being like sipping fine wine, Tarot de Messiah being like having a mead, and Thoth Tarot being just chugging straight diesel. It's apt. And frankly, seems like this fellow has spent his time in various different systems. We're going to do a rather quick flip through because there's not a ton that I can say about these sort of cards that's going to add to what's there. Obviously, you're going to get the limited colors that my camera renders. I will talk about the fact that the princess to page switch that this does is much appreciated. These go princess, prince, queen, knight. I think that's a good balance, personally. Also very heavy on the goat imagery, which I like. In some ways, it can be good to be proud. The world tries to bring you down. Overt references to the Tree of Life in here. I think it's cool. And this deck pulls no punches, especially, the Queen of Swords is chopping off a dude's head. I appreciate the art style. There's a lot of kind of homage to the original Tarot of Thoth in the way that you've got these sort of strong lines. It kind of gives it like a little bit of a serpentine feeling. This card in particular. But very much, this one gave me a lot of pause. I had to stop and look up, okay, sun symbol makes sense, what with the Gnosticism, the allusions to crucifixion. All the 10s in here I thought were very, very touching. I found personally resonant. It's almost hard to comment on because I see these and my mind goes about 100 different directions. Like the Four of Swords. Repose, also not a repose in a nines type of way. Repose in a, with the illusion of loss, with the illusion of honor. Illusion to honor. Three of Swords speaking to a Saturnian energy, but also this idea of dissolving. But this idea of dissolving being the way forward, because if you're stuck from three ways, dissolving is the only way you get out of it. Just layers. That's the thing that hits me. Like, such a true essence and such a layered presentation. And I'm sure that there's enough to these that I could sit down and peel through symbolism after symbolism that we just don't have time for in one video. This Prince of Cups is also a great depiction. Like, you get the flowing energy, you get the darkness, you get the Prince of Cups is talked about as an emotional thing, but that can also be the sense that, like, oh hey, here's a lover, a dangerous thing. So many meanings that you get a perspective just picking up a Rider-Waite-Smith won't give you. And a creator that's also local to the southwest of the US, which I'm of course partial to. I liked the Scorpio, the Five of Cups. Aces all have direct references to the Tree of Life. You don't get Crowley without talking about the Kabbalistic influence. You could try, I guess, but man, talk about sifting all the round grains of sand from the square ones. Here's the other thing. 10, the black cube of Saturn. The idea of not just carrying a heavy load, but being trapped by power. Maybe by your own power. The Leo here and the Six of Wands. Again, like, I feel like with other decks I have more to say. Okay, we're gonna roll through. This was what sold me on this deck, was the Joker, and the Joker, the Fool with the Joker smile. So many decks, I think, miss the fact that the zero card can be the most powerful card, and downplay that if you don't know the what's behind the dude stepping off the cliff. This idea of beginning. I'm just gonna leave that here. Because that to me is one of the defining elements of this. We'll just sift through the rest. That's a very interesting kind of point to make. Like, even from its original conception, Crowley's tarot feels a little sci-fi. This, you see a twinge of it here and there. The artwork is very much an homage to the presentation of the first Crowley deck. If anything, a little more restrained in terms of the proportions don't get quite as bendy. I say as we get to the lust card. You know, Crowley thing there too, with this being strength in the Rider-Waite-Smith for the same number. But like, this is another one. Hanged Man is fallen into the mouth of a gigantic viper. Very much like kind of the idea of Icarus. Kind of the idea of flying too close to the sun being a dance. Being a dance you're kind of bound to do. Maybe I'm just going to start doing these flip-throughs and not talking. This is one of my favorites, was the Judgment. A sucker for the biblically accurate angel. Just overall, well done. And I think if someone is serious about reading for the sake of personal development, you know, this or the Transformational Tarot, it just sets you up with so much larger of an environment to explore, so many more levels through which you can weave the meaning of a reading. And there's no reason you can't read with this intuitively just by reading through the guidebook and practicing the same way you can off the bat with the Rider-Waite-Smith. Honestly, this might be my new starter deck recommendation, because that's the other thing about it. Like, look at how thick it is. It's a good cardstock, and it's reasonably priced, and it's by a small creator. Like, if you have to go public domain, or effectively public domain, you could go Original Thoth or Rider-Waite-Smith. But this is just so much more in tune, and I think so much more effectively modernized. Crowley himself said that magical practice evolves, and I use the term magical loosely, as those of you who have been watching me or have been interacting with me personally know, you know, that exists and it doesn't exist. But I don't know. I'm not saying you're the next Crowley here, Toziel, but I'm saying if this isn't a valid contribution to the current, I don't know what is. And I appreciate having this in my hands so much. I think I've yapped enough for anyone else to get something out of this. I hope you did. An Imbalance in Power.